Ladies and gents, welcome to another Punk Politics with me, Aid Thompson. The Home Secretary, Suella Braverman, has uncharacteristically put her foot in it again. This is after the car crash interviews where she didn't know her numbers, her commitment to completely unachievable immigration targets, the using her office to attempt to dodge speeding points, dreaming about flying desperate refugees off to a third world country, and parroting white nationalist nonsense. God, she's awful, isn't she? Just an over-promoted Peter principle of government. A perfect example of the type of politician that cretins enjoy while we endure. Anyway, this time she's gone ahead and told the police she expects them to investigate every theft, to which the only sane response is, well, yeah, that's sort of what they're supposed to do. The problem with them not investigating them is not one of desire or application, it's one of resourcing and capacity. I expect the police to investigate every theft. Like, what do you think they're doing? Do you think the police don't want to investigate crimes? You think they go through all that training just to stand back and go, yeah, do you know what? I think I'd rather play Wordle. No! They're hampered! They're restricted! In the Telegraph, she said recently, all thefts will be investigated if there is a reasonable line of inquiry. The paper went on to say, this comes after the police have faced pressure to improve conviction rates as the numbers for low-level crimes such as theft have plummeted in recent years. Like, is theft low level now? Aye. Yeah. Thefts and home invasion, that's low level crime. I know what it is. Right, if they were looking into high level theft, that might mean that then they would have to look into the baronesses with boats. Like that kind of theft. Right, makes sense now. Convictions for low level crimes such as theft have plummeted in recent years. Like what? Why does she think that is? Could it be that people are just not stealing anymore? Like, yeah, that's what it is. It's an ever-increasing groundswell of impoverished people, desperate and languishing in a sinkhole of addiction and wealth inequality, have just decided not to steal. Is that what we're saying has happened? Well, no. Burglary is more popular than ever, with over 500 houses getting burgled every day. Like 580 a day. Like, imagine something else. Imagine anything else that bad happening 500 times a day. Be enough to send you crazy, wouldn't it? Police will investigate every theft. So why does she think things have gotten worse? Why does she think police aren't investigating? Well, like so much of right-wing populism, this is the crunch point between hot air and cold, hard truth, between fantasy and the real world. And if this is that meeting point, is there a possibility that Suella Braverman might just make the leap from one to the other? Like, could she maybe, set foot over here with the rest? Like, hey, Sue, I know you probably don't want to be driving any more than is absolutely necessary. And yeah, look, flights are a little bit screwed right now. But listen, look, if you did fancy an end of summer break, all I'm saying is maybe you'd like to join us here for a few days in objective reality. Because it's all very well saying, I expect these things to be investigated, or I expect these crimes to be attended to. But unless you're going to empower the police with more resources and greater funding in a way that might allow them to actually achieve these things, you open yourself up to speculation that it's just more hot air at a time when we're trying to cool it. Put simply, Braverman is the kind of person who likes being seen in a broadsheet. She likes seeing her face next to a tough talking headline. Maybe a little, glossy picture next to it. Meanwhile, she makes zero mention of where the funding for this new drive is coming from. We're going to investigate every theft. Like who? Who is going to investigate these burglaries? Are you going to pull officers in from parliamentary protection? No? Are you gonna, you could stop arresting protesters. Maybe that might help? No? Like every time she comes out with one of these tabloid hyperbole distractive statements, I just want to go, listen, Sue, right, just put the flags down for a second. Step back from the podium, that's it. And can you just take a second away from breaking international law to explain how you're going to arrest people for breaking these ones? Yes, no, I see the poppy. The poppy is lovely, Sue. It is. But listen, I'll do you a deal. I'll take the tofu out of my mouth, okay? If you put the poppy down and we just sit down and we talk about how this is going to work in practice. And if all of this sounds familiar, the posturing, the grandstanding, the style over substance, style of micromanagement of the play, it's because it is. This is the second time in just over as many months that Braverman has put her jackboot-wrapped foot in it. Only 9 weeks ago, she was urging police to ramp up stop and search, which was, again, a ridiculous idea. Firstly, because we all know that stop and search has been widely condemned as hugely ineffective. There's no study or stat that suggests that it reduces crime the following week or month whenever it's been rolled out. In fact, if you are stopped and searched, you are staggeringly likely to just be a black guy going about your business. You're just a regular guy on your way to work when you get pinned up against a wall by the police in front of your friends or relatives. So in my opinion, there's definitely a case to be made that police employing the tactics of stop and search open themselves up to accusations that they themselves, they're portraying themselves not as crime solvers, not as servants of the public, but racist harassment machines who operate in communities where they should be building bridges, urging police to ramp up stop and search. The second reason that is ridiculous is the same reason that this latest gaffe is ridiculous. The Home Secretary has no power to tell the police how to do their jobs. She's supposed to be strategic, not some granular level micromanagement lunatic. I mean, perhaps that's why last time she tried doing this by urging the ramp up of stop and search, it was a day later she had her arse handed to her by the Met Commissioner, I'm urging the police to ramp up stop and search. And everyone's like, is she ordering you, how to do your job? And he appeared on the Newsagents podcast to say, it's not an order, and I certainly don't take it as one. The fact is, Braverman shouldn't be saying, you will now investigate every burglary any more than she should be saying, you need to ramp up stop and search. That is not her brief. The tactics used to prevent and investigate crime, that is the remit of the police. The Home Secretary is oversight and, where appropriate, lobbying the Prime Minister and wider Parliament for changes to law to empower the police to better do their jobs. She could say, look, the Met are telling me that there's a rise in Albanian drug gangs, and so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get an extra 3 million from the Treasury, and I've negotiated with Manchester to loan us an extra 2,000 officers to help fight. That's what she could do. Strategy, negotiation, empowerment. She could say, I want to see inner city gangs smashed to pieces. What do you need from me to make that happen? She can lobby MPs to give the police the extra powers that they say they need. But all the micromanagey stuff is just laughable. It's nothing. It's just tabloid nonversation designed to do nothing but tickle the balls of witless mail readers.
Oi, have you seen this? Oi, that's Suella. She's trying to get things done. She's talking tough, but she can't do anything because the system is working against her. Poor little thing. She's helpless. So she is. Poor little petal.
I mean, the reality is that the supposed party of law and order, the Conservatives, who have been in power since 2010, have allowed every metric from rape to domestic abuse to corruption to violence to burglary, all of it has shot up quicker than the unnamed, uninvestigated guy that burgled your grand's bungalow. And most, if not all, of that has happened not because of lazy police, not because of the absence of stop and search, but because of austerity. The police, like any other public service, have had their funding cut. Between 2012 and 2019, the Tories removed 20,000 officers. And that doesn't even factor in the abysmal staff retention rate, which used to be between 2,000 and 3,000 a year would roll off. Now 9,000 officers have quit. A staggering 2/3 of police stations in England have closed since the Tories came to power. Central government funding for the police has gone down by 1/5. It's not rocket science, is it? If you delete resources, if you remove officers, if you close down access points where people would go to report crimes, the officers who remain are going to be overstretched as they try to pick up the slack. But then they're going to be overworked and underpaid. I mean, sure, they're going to be urged to meet targets. They're going to be expected to convict. But what would you do if you were them? You would choose the crimes that you were most likely to get a conviction for, right? The crimes that are closest to you, so you can get to the scene quicker, get witness statements, gather evidence. Anything that you can do to meet the targets that are expected of you. And it doesn't matter how much you urge the police to investigate every crime or every theft or every burglary. If you reduce the number of police officers, you're going to see things get worse. It's like sending your two favourite children off to boarding school and then expecting your stepson to pick up all of their chores. No. Listen, Henry, I thought I told you I expect you to do the lawn, empty the dishwasher, hoover, clean the car, and mop the floors. Right, but Hugo and Isla normally did some of that, didn't they? So, I mean, you can't be surprised that it's taken me a little bit longer and that things are generally being done to a lower standard, right? Actually, I can be, Henry. Somehow. Somehow I can be. But don't worry, it's not as bad as it seems. Oh, right, okay. Are they coming home? Or are you going to get me some help with all of this? Maybe a cleaner? No, I'm going to tell you that you have my full support if you want to magic a magical fairy that can do half of the work for you somehow, or whatever. Oh, great. And unfortunately, the austerity cuts on the police are not where the problems end. Cuts to wider support services have also had an impact. Mental health services, for example, have now been so severely cut that the police deal with a mental health-related call every 4 minutes. An officer attends a mental health-related matter once every 12 minutes. About half of all mental health admissions in secure units and hospitals arrive there in a police car, not an ambulance. Which, if you had a brain, you would listen to all this and you would go, okay, well, obviously the answer here is better funding for mental health services, right? But no. Can you take a wild guess what the ministerial response was to hearing that police are spending too much of their time on mental health matters? Can you guess what they responded with? Ministers tell police to respond to fewer mental health related 999 calls. Like, again, with the micromanagement. Like, any more funding? Any more strategic advice perhaps here, Sue? No? I urge you to make this go away. Like the furore over my speeding tickets, just gone. Magic it gone. Like the billions in COVID fraud. Do you remember that? 4.5 billion stolen from the UK Treasury in COVID fraud scandal. Any chance we could urge you to investigate every theft there, guys? No. Well, great. So yeah, once again, we've got Braverman in the papers, on the news, expecting and urging, while again, senior police officers go on record dismissing and dismantling, rightly complaining that a lot of police forces still have less officers now than they did in 2010. And basically saying, and this is somewhat new, they're saying, look, if you want to see better results, we all need to work together. We want to work with the courts, the mental health facilities, but above all, we want to be operationally independent. Which I have to say, I'm here for. Like, that is akin to saying, look, you want crime down, we want crime down. That is sort of what we do, Home Secretary. And there's a lot of different and varying ways and opinions of how we achieve that. But I think the one thing we can all come together and agree on is that the roadmap to a success story here probably doesn't include you. I don't know, man. Like, what do you guys think? Do you think Braverman's urges are a credible strategy? Or do you think they're just political, intentional distractions? Do you think the police should just be left alone to do their thing? Should they be operationally independent? Maybe you think mental health services already have enough funding. Like, why should I put more tax dollars into those services? I'm not mentally unwell.
Oh yeah, is that right?
Oh, will you shut up? Or do you maybe think or agree that actually throwing more money at the police and more money at mental health services is a tricky balance to strike when we're in this GDP to debt ratio that is so f***ing scary? Make sure you let me know in the comments, because I expect you to.
Oh, give over.